Let's go! Aaron Anderson commits to LSU. Are you freaking kidding me, Brian Kelly? Stealing one of Nick Saban's 5-star Alabama wide receivers. So comment down below. This is what I want the question to be. Do you think Aaron Anderson will be a top 3 receiver on LSU's team next year? Some of you I know think he is truly special because, well, I've been doing YouTube on this channel for well over 2 years now. And yeah, you guys, when we lost Aaron Anderson to Alabama, went nuts because a lot of you, I mean, some of my viewers actually watch a lot of Edna Carr games. You're like, Carter, this guy is truly, truly, truly special. So he eventually comes home to LSU, and that is the beauty of the transfer portal. There are so many Louisianables that go to other schools that are always interested in coming back home. Little film study for you. I want you to see this catch. This is a 5'9" wide receiver. Look at the elevation, and look at the all-hands catch right here. This is in freaking insane to not only catch it, get a foot in bounds, actually got a second. That is pretty crazy. Aaron Anderson did not play at Alabama his true freshman season. He is a guy that was nursing some injuries. So he did not play, and now he has already gone back home to LSU. But there is something very fascinating about Aaron Anderson's immediate value to LSU, and it's one that a lot of you are probably familiar with. Boom! I'm looking at you. Yes, you, right now. Look at that, PowerHourLSU.com. You can get yourself a hoodie just like this one. And what's very interesting, even though we're already playing this punt return in the background, everybody that orders $100 worth of merch, I'm sending you a Jayden Daniels, Kayshawn, and Derek Stingley card on me, okay? And I'll throw an auto in there as well. Go to PowerHourLSU.com and support the channel. It's absolutely positively imperative that we keep growing this thing. Let's go! Now, in the background, you have been seeing Aaron Anderson return a punt. And the immediate value for LSU is Aaron Anderson's best trait as a player is as a returner, right? At Edna Carr, that's where he really dominated teams, is in the return game. And as you saw right there, that was a really impressive punt return. It wasn't the absolute most perfectly blocked play. He had to field the punt off a bounce off the turf. And obviously, a few whirling derbyshires later, he was able to house this punt. And right away, I think one of the immediate selling points for Aaron Anderson is that he obviously, you're transferring to an LSU wide receiver room that is absolutely freaking stacked with Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., and Kayshon Boutte. It would be hard for Aaron Anderson in LSU's base 11 personnel to be a starter in that wide receivers room. But the one thing is, the returning job is wide open, and LSU, for whatever reason, just could not find someone reliable on scholarship to return punts. Now, give Clayton credit. He was able to catch the football. I'm pretty confident that Aaron Anderson can do just that next year as a punt and kickoff returner for LSU. And that had to have been one of the many incentives for Aaron Anderson to come to LSU. Now, there might be more incentives that we may or may not know about, but for me, the biggest thing was, where can he get touches? And immediately he will be able to get touches as a returner. There he is right there, breaking press man coverage for a very easy touchdown in the background. So right off the jump, as great as a receiver Aaron Anderson could be, as a returner, he is going to be infinitely more valuable for LSU in year one. Now, in year two, he could eventually be LSU's best slot receiver or even an outside receiver. But for right now, he automatically becomes the return specialist, right? The second thing here is he does provide wide receiver depth, okay? Brian Kelly did mention Landon Ibieta as a backup wide receiver, but honestly, you would say right now, maybe Shelton Sampson coming in as a true freshman was the number 4 receiver behind those big 3 that we just mentioned. I know Kyron Lacey is obviously a guy that's still on the roster, but it was an up and down year for him, as many of you are familiar with. Aaron Anderson might be the number 4 guy. And for that, there is potential playing time, right? Obviously, some of you are really high on Chris Hilton. It's going to be interesting to see if he could stay healthy. It's also going to be very interesting to see if Aaron Anderson stays healthy in his own right. So even though the top 3 is going to be tough to crack next year for LSU, the number 4 wide receiver on this team is still up for grabs. But I do think Shelton Sampson is so good that he will play year 1. And I also feel very highly of Kyle Parker. So I'm going to be honest with you. As a receiver, Aaron Anderson, it's going to be tough sledding for him to move up the depth chart, especially since he missed a good portion of this year with injury. So, yeah, I'm going to be very fascinated to see what he actually brings to the table as a wide receiver. But it's pretty clear just by getting him touches that he deserves the football in his hands, because good things tend to happen when Aaron Anderson gets the football in his hands. Boom! I'm looking at you. Yes, you. Yet again, don't forget, join the PHL Patreon, where you can be a part of our Discord and you get some extra benefits, including extra film studies, analysis, and all that good stuff. Once again, patreon.com/LSU Football. All the links are down below. So what I'm going to do here at the end is that there are some other news stories to bring up here. And look, this LSU wide receiver room is really, really, really deep, right? We haven't really talked about Jaylen Brown and Kai Pre in this video. There's just so many wide receivers. I think I've mentioned every single one on scholarship on the roster right now. But yeah, this is going to be tough. And Aaron Anderson needs to know coming in that in order to play wide receiver, you have got to freaking earn your touches, right? So yeah, guys, this is really cool. I mean, you would be shocked how many messages I've received about Aaron Anderson now in the portal, but even last year, because Aaron Anderson was an LSU commit under Ed Orgeron, right? And he decided to decommit and, obviously flip to Alabama, like a lot of the elite LSU, the Louisiana wide receivers at cycle. And now he's coming back to play for Brian Kelly. So I know that also plays a role into this as far as Aaron Anderson is concerned, because you wanted him, whenever you lose a decommitment, especially a top 100 decommitment, especially one that goes to Alabama, it does sting a little bit extra. So let's see what actually happens here. Now, let's talk about some other news stories. Obviously, Desmond Ricks is visiting LSU this weekend, and by all accounts, it went well. And obviously, that's going to be the next big commitment, even though that's not quite the transfer portal. So, very, very interesting stuff there. Now, we get to me, the final story here. LSU loses a wide receiver as well, Jack Bech. He will not be coming back to LSU. He will be going to TCU. Now, why TCU? Well, I don't know exactly why TCU, but I did hear that this was a potential destination for him. And the good news is, well, we're not going to play TCU, right? Unless we see him in a playoff or a bowl game. So this is a guy who went outside the SEC, and he can't hurt LSU now, right? So the good news is Jack Bech is out. What's very interesting about that is this was, and this kind of just goes along with the point that we mentioned a minute ago, as you see more ridiculous Aaron Anderson highlights in the background. Jack Bech was a stud, and I mean a stud as a freshman. It wasn't like he just caught a few passes. He made a lot of big third down conversion catches. He made a lot of obviously first down catches, and that was just sick. Aaron Anderson was losing his balance, and he still made that guy miss. Nuts. Breaks that tackle too. Crazy. But he was so productive. He just didn't really do a whole lot this past year, and a lot of it was injury. A lot of it were, the turnovers on special teams. And honestly, it was him moving from the hybrid tight end to a full-time wide receiver. And it shows you today that Louisiana and especially LSU wide receivers, if Aaron Anderson had stayed at Alabama, there was a clearer path to playing time there than it is here at LSU at wide receiver. So understand, when you go to the purple and gold of LSU, there's always going to be competition. Whereas with TCU, they are losing their best wide receiver more than likely to the NFL draft. Now, I do want to bring up one thing, and look, I'm always going to be a Jack Bech fan, mainly because he did hop on our channel. I've gotten to know some people close to Jack Bech, and he has 2 more years of eligibility. I wish him well, and I appreciate what he did for us. But I do want to bring up just one quick, interesting thing, okay? It wasn't so much that Jack Bech committed to TCU. It's that at the same time, their quarterback, Max Duggan, I think it's Dugan. He has declared for the NFL draft. And what's very interesting about that is I didn't really know he had that big of an NFL market. He's no better to me than 4th on any NFL draft board, right? And he has decided, and I'm sure Max, especially after winning or almost winning the Heisman, he was 2nd place in the voting. I'm sure he could have gotten a very elaborate NIL deal to come back to play for TCU. I mean, he has gained a lot of fans, right? I know one of our viewers, Danny Girl, she is a huge fan of Max Duggan. But what I'll say about that is the quarterback room now for TCU loses its starter. And their backup, Chandler Morris, yes, the son of former Arkansas coach and Auburn offensive coordinator Chad Morris, he can't really play. He's not really that good. So it does open up a position at the quarterback position. Now, for me, I think a lot of transfer portal quarterbacks would be very interested to fill that need. And I'm just saying there's going to be a lot of interest from a lot of different players in going to play for a good structure that Sonny Dykes has at TCU. So I'm just going to say that because obviously if Jaden Daniels decides to come back, the likelihood that one of LSU's backup quarterbacks enters the transfer portal, Garrett Nussmeier, Walker Howard, does go up. And obviously, Jack Bech has a good relationship with both of them. So I'm not saying there's been any contact with TCU and any player because obviously that would be illegal. But I just wanted to throw that out there because that's going to be a place where a lot of transfer portal quarterbacks are going to want to go. So, once again, comment down below your thoughts on Aaron Anderson. Will he be a top 3 wide receiver on LSU's team next year? It is going to be tough, but obviously the talent in the minds of many is there. Okay? And don't forget live stream schedules, all the good stuff. Subscribe, and yeah. Let's go. It is Power Hour LSU. Boom. And tonight, we're doing some barbecue chicken. Let's go.